Attention, ladies and gentlemen. We're now arriving in Detroit. Once again, this is Detroit Woodward Street Station. And thank you for riding Amtrak.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the Wisendale Weekly Wrap-Up, where we talk about architecture, design, everything in between, and community leaders. This week, we're still in Detroit, here at the Wasserman Projects. Beautiful gallery out here. And I have a very, very special guest with me this week. Go ahead, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, FM. Daniel A. Washington, president and founder of Northwest Goldberg Cares, as well as co-founder and chief marketing officer of Detroit Dough.
Nice. Which one came first, Northwest Goldberg or Detroit Dough?
Believe it or not, they almost came at the same time.
Oh, really?
But Northwest Goldberg Cares, crazy backstory about that just is, when I first started it, it was when I graduated college in 2014. Okay. And it went by the name of Original Creativity. And the thought was to do art enrichment program for underserved youth, and it just kind of went from that and me being super passionate about that, because I've always joked and said I'm not an artist, I'm an artist appreciator, which basically just means I don't create art, but I appreciate art.
Yeah.
So in high school, one of my buddies, man, he customized shoes, all the stuff now where you see dudes customizing. You got guys like Mache and other dudes who are super cold out in the industry, kind of setting the standard. But my buddy in high school, his name was Lawrence Stout, shout out to him, and he came to me like, hey man, I can customize shoes, but I ain't got no money to buy paint. I'm like, what? Let me see. So, went ahead and gave him $45, went to Michael's, bought the paint that, wouldn't rub off the shoes, customized me a pair of shoes, and I was like, oh yeah, for sure. Let's get it on. So ever since then, I've been telling myself, I'm not an artist, but I appreciate art. So I'm going to appreciate art from afar and up close as many times as I can, but I'll never claim to be an artist myself.
Yeah, and that's what the original name was? Yeah,
it was Artist Original Creativity. Then I dropped the Artist because I ended up finding out that was a company in Europe that owned it, and I was like, ooh, I don't want a lawsuit. He was mad because I had a logo and everything and had started the Facebook page. But yeah, went by Original Creativity, and like I said, the idea was that everything from the standpoint of art is creative, right? So the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you hold yourself, the way you compose, everything.
Absolutely.
I wanted kids to have an understanding of art from a more holistic approach, and not just be, art is me painting, or art is me doing comics, or art is me playing video games, but really understand everything from the way you dress is literally art. But it just
the holistic approach.
Correct, the holistic approach. Because again, I feel like far too often our black and brown kids, especially in the inner city, we have such a skewed understanding of art. Because you think about it, even you hear the story about Big Sean. I don't know if you heard about that. Big Sean used to get, from according to all reports that I know, Big Sean used to get bullied, right? At Cass Tech, because he was into art, he was into rapping. People didn't necessarily vibe with it at the time, right? His rap style wasn't necessarily attractive. So, I wanted kids to understand you can embrace art in every facet of your life, but with everything that's happening in the state of Michigan and really across the nation with the art programs that were just, cut due to public funding, it just didn't make sense financially, right? It was just I'm pouring all this money into trying to convince, DPS to let me come in and spend some time with these kids and show them the different side of art, and it's just not working out. So I did that, had an art gallery, and kind of it's funny because what pivoted into my neighborhood in Northwest Goldberg Cares and what now has become is, I had a gallery. And I used to have a photo studio out in Pontiac called Men Studios, and then we switched to Detroit Atelier. And my photographer at the time, she was out cold, and she still is cold, but we're no longer in business together or whatever. We actually did an art gallery at Detroit Clothing Circle, which I don't know if you know where that's at, but that's right there in Midtown. There in Midtown. So at the corner of 2nd and I want to say it's near the Slows, and it was a dope. Shout out to Michael and his wife. They have a Clothing Circle resale shop, and essentially we had a gallery, and the gallery was to depict the beauty and art around the brokenness of Detroit or the neighborhoods, right? So we went ahead, me and my photographer at the time, we went ahead and drove around and shot all these beautiful portraits of just people would call it ruin porn, but I'm gonna tell you why it wasn't ruin porn, right? For us, it was about storytelling of what is the beauty behind this, right? Sure. The beauty is not in seeing a abandoned building. The beauty is what this building could be, or what this house could be, or the stories that you could tell if you talk to the people who live there. And that was really the whole mission behind the gallery. And I mean, it did well. I think that night we had 16 to 17 pieces, and we sold at least half of them that night, and people was interested after. And after I kind of said, I'm like, whoa, people are interested in this. And again, it wasn't just your basic quote unquote ruin porn. I actually, as a journalism major, I wrote a little a little story caption, right? That
Yeah.
told a story about what I wanted you to interpret or perceive under, and it gravitated to people, and people was like, oh, this is dope. So after that, I just started thinking about it. I'm like, look, I'm a privileged black kid in the city of Detroit, from the city of Detroit, living in this neighborhood that is so just in need of some real energy and some real just fresh blood, from the standpoint of saying like new ideas, fresh concepts, and really some wherewithal to get it done.
Yeah.
And after a while, I just sat back. I'm like, look, it ain't enough for me to be out here caring about art from this large macro perspective of, going and infiltrating the schools. I said,
Sure.
I need to care about the landscape of my neighborhood. And that's the birth of Northwest Goldberg Cares, right? It's just, how can I use art or my love for art from afar by way of beautification, by way of improvement, right? Going back to the whole ruin porn, like, look at this building and you see it's a desolate place, and it's a place of, anguish for a lot of community members. How can you bring that back to life, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can you be creative in thinking about what do people want, goods and services that they need? How can we do that? And believe it or not, that's what kind of gifted Northwest Goldberg Cares.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you threw a lot at me on that one.
Yeah.
First, I guess the main important thing is, what do you think of Detroit 2? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yeah, I mean, listen. I'm just being honest with you. It was good, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I still like Big Sean Project 2 times ago.
Oh,
and I
yeah,
think that's
yeah.
My Dark Twisted. Is that no, that's
no.
Kanye. Paradise.
Okay.
Yeah, that one. I just think that one had a little bit more staying power for me. But mind you, I respect it because I know that it was a play off his first Detroit, which was a mixtape at the time.
Yeah.
But I just think Big Sean is one of those artists that like him, love him, hate him. I appreciate what he does.
Yeah.
For
of course.
the city.
Yeah.
But
That's the same with Chance out in Chicago. Like, I love him, hate him. Like, he's doing a lot, and like,
Exactly.
you can't fucking hate on that regardless.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think with what you were saying about how art is almost exclusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it should be more inclusive, and I think a lot of people always feel like it happens behind closed doors, and it's like a privilege to see certain artwork and things like that. And I think breaking down those stereotypes are super important too. So
this is my thing about art and why it's not accessible. And I'm gonna be very honest with you, man. And people don't want to talk about it because, of course, it sounds like I'm race baiting or things like that. But it's true. It's like art requires access, right? And at the end of the day, I mean, let's be honest. We're sitting in a room that we would both agree is beautifully designed, but I can bring you 10 other people back to back to back that'll say, what the hell is this? This is a waste of time, right? Like, this is doing nothing for me. And that's why I'm saying that it's about access, is that for those who don't have access and income, they can't afford to miss.
Right.
When I go to work, I need a check.
Yep.
And artists, in a lot of respects, can afford that this piece doesn't resonate with somebody.
Yep.
So it's going to sit in my yard, or it's going to sit in my studio, it's going to sit in my penthouse until it moves, if ever it does.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, it becomes a part of me that now I even have more affinity and love for it. And it's not a bad thing, but it is something that you have to think about from a very systematic approach, in my opinion, especially as a person of color, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is when I think about art, even like the art park, you're very familiar with that project.
Yep.
We did an art park in the neighborhood, took a formerly blighted piece of land that was owned by the land bank and converted it to a beautiful safe space that welcomes art. Like, we're looking to partner with the DIA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that important to me is because, like I said, for a lot of African Americans, for a lot of underprivileged individuals, they don't have the opportunity to take a Friday night off and say, I'm going to the DIA today.
Yeah.
So guess what? I'm going to bring the damn DIA to you if I can, right?
Right.
And that's the important part about it, is that art can be inclusive, and it should be, but I understand why systematically it isn't, because, like I said, it takes a different type of person to appreciate something that very well could be hit or miss for some.
Sure.
We don't have opportunities in the black community to hit or miss. Like I said, you go to work, your check better be here. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I do this and third, I need to see some result out of it. Art is not like that.
Right.
Art is a very subjective thing. So
Yeah.
I just think that that's one of those things that, like you said, it's like, unfortunately, we're living in a day and age where I think art has become more accessible, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look at stuff that Virgil is doing, you look at stuff that Kanye has been able to do, you look at things like that where, these guys are intentionally collaborating with certain individuals, right, or certain entities to hopefully, in hopes of making it more accessible.
Sure.
And I do think there's something to be said about that too, though.
Yeah. And going back to Northwest Goldberg, how many? You said it was established in 2017.
17. That's really when we
And you guys are. Can you, for the listeners out there who may not be familiar with Detroit, where is Northwest Goldberg located?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Northwest Goldberg is right there. I'll call it Central Detroit. So a lot of people think about Detroit as East and West, and I get why. But if you really think about Detroit, to me, more critically, you'll know that Detroit is East, West, and there's also a central area, which is pretty much off of Woodward. I feel like anything that's a mile to a mile and a half off of Woodward is central Detroit for the most part, because Woodward runs straight through.
Yeah.
So I consider us central because we're near Midtown, if you're familiar with Midtown, LaSalle Gardens, North Corktown, Woodbridge, and New Center. We're home to some things that people very much so know about the city of Detroit. Motown music, right? That's our home. We're home to that.
Yep.
If you know anything about Lee Plaza and being, I know a guy with a design background, Lee Plaza and Mr. Lee himself was the man back in the day, right? That was Airbnb before you had Airbnb, which a lot of people don't know that. So when you think about Lee Plaza and what it was for the city of Detroit at the time, and just in the world of design, that place was a place that people came and enjoyed and stayed, and celebrities owned the apartment but also subletted it, right? And still owned it, still retained ownership, right? So again, it was Airbnb before Airbnb, and that's out of our neighborhood, which that building is under contract right now with the developer. So super excited about that.
Nice.
And then of course we're home to the Old Olympia, which if you know anything about music again in Motown, and just the whole how Detroit just moves the music world, whether that be house music and techno. We're home to the original Olympia, which
was that still open?
Yeah, so it's not still open. It actually turned into an armory. National Guard is out of there now.
Oh, okay, there you go. Gotcha.
After 67 riots happened, which if you don't know, those are.
The newer Olympia.
Yeah, no, the new Olympia isn't in Northwest Goldberg either.
No,
but they did go ahead and open Little Caesars Arena, which is supposed to be,
there you go,
play off of it. But at the same time, Little Caesars Arena, don't even get started on that.
That's part of development, though.
Yeah, it's part of development, but it's the fallacy of development too, right? Which is all development is good development, which that's not true. Unlike publicity, right? All publicity is good publicity in some respects, right? Yeah. Especially if you're selling something. But I don't think all good development is good development. I think that that's a great example of a development that really, truly looking back at it, I think as a city and as a people, we'll look back and say, was that really the right move at this time because of its inability to be executed the way it was presented, right? And I think that that's something that, again, not trying to be controversial, but that's really about sports in general. I just had this argument with a buddy recently. I'm like, he was just like, well, you got to understand, when LeBron left Cleveland, and really smart brother, shout out Josh, if you watch this, he was telling me he's from Cleveland. He was telling me how he grew up when LeBron left and came back, and how all of downtown Cleveland just went crazy, rightfully so. And that showed the power of sports. And I said, how many LeBrons is there?
Right.
And I looked at him just like that. How many LeBrons is there? Because that's the fallacy, is that'll happen if you build an arena. No, that'll happen if you have a LeBron James to bring in that arena, or to, usher in this new development.
Sure.
But otherwise, an arena is just that. It's an arena. If your sports team is sucking, or your sports team don't, do what it's supposed to do, guess what? Nobody cares. Life goes on. As much as we care about the NFL, the Lions, trust and believe, aren't impacting our economy as much as you might want to say it is. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the Fords. So it's just one of those things where it's you gotta be real, man. It's just being real. It's not trying to be controversial, just being honest. It's we gotta stop. There's only so many LeBrons, MJs, Kobe's who can move the needle economically the way that, to me, development and developers around sports arenas like to say. You know what I'm saying? Gotta have a good product.
Was it presented? You're saying that it was presented differently before?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, it was the whole neighborhood. I mean, you was gonna have the district.
They
the
did
district
the whole
was a neighborhood.
Community. They did everything that.
They created new neighborhoods, man. At least as they proposed. They were proposing, we create new neighborhoods. It's gonna be so populated. Man, they took them buildings, tore them down, and they had surface parking lots. And that's what they are now, and that's what they will be to the foreseeable future. Because guess what? COVID is hit, right? We're in the middle of a panty. I call it a panty, bumper pandemic. We're in the middle of a panty, right?
There you go.
And it's there's much to be said about what comes with life, right?
Sure.
You can have plans, and we talk about that too. You can ideate all you want, but at a certain point, you just got to do it. And I think that, as we know, these developers are very risk adverse, even though they are taking a risk. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
They're risk adverse while taking a risk, and that risk that they're only willing to take a risk up until a certain amount, or up to a certain point, until it becomes no longer feasible for them. And it always shows in what the end of it, right? So if your goal is to build an arena first and secondary to build a neighborhood, you're going to build that arena by all costs. That neighborhood ain't going to get built per se, right? If things change, if things happen, if more money needs to be poured into that arena, the neighborhood definitely about to come. And that's what ended up happening. So I think that, again, you know, when we let go of some of the funding for our children, right, the education, you know, when we traded that in for a sports arena in downtown Detroit, it's just like, we're going to look back at this in 10, 15 years and have regrets out the wazoo. Yeah. And that's only natural.
Yeah, man. My old man and I were watching the TV today, and across the ticker it said Pistons traded such and such, such and such. And I looked at him, I was like, "Do you know that guy?" He was like, "No, I don't know him." I'm like, "Okay, so why would we even care about that?" Because the Pistons, I mean, they're struggling, whatever. But I've been very disconnected with sports this year because of everything that's going on, and like I couldn't even tell you really who's doing really well in the NFL right now, only because I just feel like there's a lot of lip service going on with that, and I feel like it's not really true to what's going on, authentic to what's going on. But yeah, that's wild. And you guys have a literacy park in your Northwest Goldberg. How many different parks are there?
So we got a total of 3 parks. We're right now fundraising for our 4th, which, you know, fingers crossed that we're able to get some real traction on that this upcoming holiday season, because that park, I feel like, will become our signature park in the neighborhood.
Okay.
But we have 3. We have the Art Park, which is at 6102 16th Street. We have the Literacy Park, which is at 6134 15th Street. And then we have the last but not least, our last park, which is a covered bus shelter, which is called the Rest and Ride, and that's 6326 Linwood.
Nice.
And, you know, these 3 parks we've been able to do since June of 2019, believe it or not. So we have 3 pocket parks, you know, world-class parks, in my opinion, that we've been able to accomplish in pretty much a year and some change or less. Nice. Which, again, it's been a big undertaking, a lot of just days where I'm just dog tired, but the fulfillment I get out of it on the personal side of it is, you know, having a 4-year-old niece, right, who lives in this neighborhood, who lives 2 doors down from the Literacy Park, right, who literally introduces herself to those who are volunteering as, you know, my uncle put this in, and I help my uncle, and it's like, that's what gets me excited, right? It's like, that's just like, oh yeah, bang, like we here, we're doing this, and we're gonna keep doing this, because it just ain't even about her, right? Like, yes, she's the motivation, but it's about any kid in this neighborhood that can literally wake up and get excited about, I have a safe space that I can now visit with my parents. I have a safe space that I can visit with my older brother or younger sister, whatever. And it's like, that's what I'm excited about. But yeah, the Literacy Park, super dope. Shout out to Detroit Future City for believing in us. They gave us some funding around, I think it was like $11,000 to do the initial implementation of that. It's one of their lot designs. If you're familiar with Detroit Future City, they're one of the leading
can you explain who they are?
Yeah, so Detroit Future City, they're one of the leading land use nonprofits in the city of Detroit. They've helped the city of Detroit kind of understand its land issue, right? So the city of Detroit is 100 plus miles of land, and a big portion of that is vacant, you know. So Detroit Future City, was instrumental in really helping the city understand what could it do with all this vacant land around the city of Detroit, what it could implement for water retention, right? What could it implement to improve the sustainability of neighborhoods that they were going to invest in strategically, being the city of Detroit. So they had this program called Working with Locks program. And it's a great program, and it's very, very interesting in that they really empower those in their community, whether that be block clubs, nonprofits, you know what I mean, like just active community members, to identify a lot, take one of their already vetted out ideas for the lot. So they have, you know, about, I want to say 18 to 25 ideas already that they've vetted out. They have everything from how to actually do the implementation to all the materials needed to an estimated budget for it, right? And
are they all site specific, or are they just a pool of ideas?
A pool of ideas that give you parameters like where this would be great at, right? So
gotcha.
If they have an idea, for instance, the Holland Maze, you know, it needs to be in full sun because you're dealing with tulips, right? Gotcha. It needs to be flat if possible. They talk to you about, you know, where ideally it will be at in terms of having a rain garden. So it needs to have a structure next door to it. It doesn't need to be on a vacant corner lot with no structures next to it. So again, they do a really good job, and they have a whole guide, a literally booklet that they provide you. And essentially, when we got a part of this program, like, we had no real funding at that point. Like, again, I was doing everything out the strength of my pockets for the most part. I was like, hey, I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in this community. I'm born and raised here. Like, I need to put money where my mouth is. But at that point, they were the first people to really look at us and say, okay, we believe in your vision. We want to support you. And we were granted that grant at the time. And literally for us, it was like, okay, cool. Like, we just got $11,000. Let's A, make sure we manage this money right. B, let's actually, you know, do a quality project. But then the third thing that really plagued me was that, you know, being a brother, back to my point of being black and brown, it's like, look, public space is great, but like if it don't serve me outside of just passing by and saying that's a nice space, it ain't really gonna resonate with me, nor my residents or my neighbors, I should say. So
Yeah.
it was one of those things where it's like I was just kind of scratching my head, and we were kind of talking about like, you know, what are some needs that are pressing in the city? And because, you know, Detroit Future City is definitely about their business too. Like they want publicity, they want, you know, they want to make sure that they can continue to get funding for this type of program. So they're really intentional about how are you going to program this space. The problem is the grant is only for implementation, not programming.
Gotcha.
So I was like, that's kind of steep. Like I got to think of something different. So what better way to serve the community at large, and that being Northwest Goldberg and all of the city of Detroit, than to actually implement some things that could support literacy, right? And literacy attainment. So really the thing that we were able to do was say, okay, let's go secure another grant that supports this grant, and let's actually create a program that is all about literacy, and we were able to do that. So it is indeed a literacy park. It's the first of its kind in a lot of respects because we were the first Highland Maze in the city of Detroit. So we have over 1,200 tulips planted on one plot of land in the city of Detroit, a 30 by 110 feet. So it's a beautiful display.
So you have how many tulips in 30 by 100?
Like 1,200.
1,200
like just under
tulips.
1,200. Yeah, just under 1,200. So
nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Come through. You know, don't got to go to Holland, Michigan to go see their tulips. Come, you know, to little Northwest Goldberg.
Yeah.
Show us some love.
Yeah.
And it's free. Again, it's free, open public space. And then what we did, we added a teeny little library to the actual plot, which is
that a give a book, take a book type of situation?
Yeah. So honestly, it's a do whatever you want with the books, other than vandalize, right? Just being honest. Like, I mean, I tell people all the time. I mean, we're in a place, in a space, unfortunately, where I can't expect somebody to give, right? I gotta continue to provide, and I'm okay with that. And more importantly, I want others who can provide a book to do just that. But take the book, you know, take 2 books, take 3 books. Like we have families come out, look, take books, and I want you to, because I got books in my house right now that I can't get rid of. So it's just one of those things where So anyway, back to the thing. So we got that. We got some birdhouses for the kids to be able to look at, because when you think about nature and you think about, you know, piquing a child's interest, right? It's very critical, right? It's very important. And you can't just give a kid a book and say, you don't know how to read, but figure out how to read. So it's about providing them multiple touch points to enjoy themselves on their during their time there on the actual park. And then we also have a seating area where it's some rubberized mulch, which that's just reused tires. That is pretty much the standard for playscapes and play parks and things like that. So we were able to get a nice circular oval seating area for the kids to be able to read in. And then last but not least, we're adding a actual tough shed to be able to store all this stuff and be able to then have snacks and stuff for the kids when they come out. But during this pandemic, it's just been amazing, because we took our literacy program virtual, right?
Oh, wow.
And taking it virtual was an experience in itself, because, you know, at the end of the day, we didn't really know what type of turnout we'd have, but believe it or not, people was actually tuning in and enjoying it. So we really hoping to formalize that a little bit more this year. We have a young lady that's in the neighborhood who's an instructor. Shout out Audra. She's off of 14th Street in the community, who that's what she does. She loves, you know, music. She's a very skilled and talented instrumentist and singer. And, you know, for us, it's like, okay, how can we create a really robust program that really is doing what we say we want it to do, right? Like, it was cool doing it online and just having a little feed on Facebook that people can tune in if they wanted to, but it's a whole other thing when you come correct and you provide a real laid out curriculum for the children wherever they're at, if they can come in person, if they can't, to enjoy and learn how to read. So that's what we're about in 2021. Yeah,
man, that's a lot. And I think the pandemic definitely changes everybody's plans, right? And this year it's been ridiculous. And I just know that a lot of the nonprofits are definitely trying to go more analog a little bit more, because there's a digital divide that's true too, that everybody always has to make sure to be aware of and not assume that people can have access to these things, which is always important. And then switching over to Detroit Dough, how is what? I guess the whole background, like how did you even start that or think of that?
Man, that's a great point. So Detroit Dough, man, edible cookie dough, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, it was not and is not a passion of ours.
Yeah.
I have 2 business partners. And you know, for us, it's really just about the opportunity that we saw in the marketplace at the time, right? So when you think about edible cookie dough and the craze that's happening in New York and really any major city, you saw cookie dough at 2016, 2017 just spike. Like, everybody wanted it. Everybody wanted to be a part of it. Everybody wanted to have a shop in their hometown. And for us, it was like, yeah, we want to join that wave because A, it's an opportunity, but B, the city of Detroit deserves something like that too, right? And what better name than Detroit dough, right?
Yeah.
That's a double entendre, right? Detroit dough as in the cookie dough as in the money. But we focus on the cookie dough, so ain't no ambiguity out there regarding that. But with that being said, you know, we were like, okay, this will be dope. This would be sweet. Let's try to open up a shop in our neighborhood. Let's give back to our neighborhood. And that didn't work out. You know, it was just one of those things where a piece of property that we needed, the city was holding on to. It just wasn't feasible to try to build a alternative, you know, construction with the whole shipping container at the time. We were a little ahead of the curve for the neighborhood. So I actually just in the middle of the night hit up, you know, the CEO of one of the largest Michigan-based movie theaters. And the rest is history. We were the first to put edible cookie dough in movie theaters in the nation. We were in ballpark stadiums previous to the pandemic. We were at the Big House, Little Caesars Arena, United Shore Professional Baseball League, MJR movie theaters. Like, we were well on our way to becoming the Midwest company and potentially national company that we wanted to be. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, things just fell out from the bottom. We're still around, but at the same time, there's really less of a priority on the business just because we understand that things aren't going to be back to normal anytime soon. Not. You know, and where we made our bread and butter and what made us truly different is where we were selling it at. And since those avenues and those places aren't open, it really is very little for us to do. A lot of people always ask, well, why not in grocery stores? When was the last time you went to a grocery store and wanted edible cookie dough? You haven't. You go to a grocery store and you get Nestle or Toll House, or you get the ingredients to make your own at home. Even if you are going to put it in the oven, I'm guaranteeing that you're going to bite off a chunk or two, which is ultimately why it never was supposed to be in the grocery stores, right? So it's just one of those things where, unfortunately, you know, we're a casualty of the pandemic, but we're still kicking and still going. And to that point, you know, one thing that we did, which I'm most proud of us as a unit, as a team, being 3 black kids from Detroit, is that we were able to give 5% of all sales back to our neighborhood. So we poured more than $18,000 into our neighborhood, right?
That's awesome.
You could do the math there in terms of what was our revenue and things like that, but it's like, you know, we were able to really pour directly back into our neighborhood, and that's what has helped fund a lot of the projects that I've already kind of talked about, right? And we're just continuing to just figure out ways to support, you know, by way of our social media pages that, you know, have a large, decent following. You know, the founders, you know, really just being really vocal about the need for black empowerment and really the need for black businesses to step up and play a role in the revitalization of neighborhoods that they come from, right? So, you know, at the time, I had this joke all the time. I'm like, look, before Detroit Dough started, nobody even knew what the name of my neighborhood was, just being honest with you. Even the people in the neighborhood, like, old heads knew, but like new businesses that started in the last, you know, 5-10 years, they had no idea what our neighborhood was called. You know, it's not like Corktown where you open a business in Corktown, you telling everybody, I'm in Corktown, right? There's pride that comes with that. Nobody had pride with Northwest Goldberg. And I think now there is a little bit more of the pride that's happening, and people are really more excited about, like, hey, I am a part of a neighborhood that has a history, that has, you know, these things that I've always known about. I know about Motown, but I didn't know where Motown was. I just knew it was off of West Grand Boulevard. Like, that was literally the thing. And I'm pretty sure you say, if that's what it was for you, right? You knew where Motown was, but like, you didn't say, oh, Motown is in Northwest Goldberg. You said, oh, Motown off West Grand Boulevard? Oh, yeah, I know where that's at. Henry Ford? Oh, yeah, that's. But it's like now, because of Detroit Dough and because of the branding, shout out to myself for the branding, it's like now Northwest Goldberg is a known commodity in the city. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, sometimes you got to pat yourself on the back, bro. You know how it goes. You got to pat yourself on the back.
Well, I mean, you're saying about how, you know, different developments in the city, and we've mentioned Detroit Land Bank for a couple times. How has that kind of changed since you've been getting into more of the purchasing and selling? Like, how have you seen it?
Yeah,
because there are a lot of people who have still. I remember, I don't know how many years ago it was. Where it just made national news that there was a couple or a group that was just buying up everything and just not doing anything with it. And I'm like, that's okay. Like, I guess you can't really hate the player, hate the game. You know what I mean? Correct. But at the same time, like, that's unfortunate that there's people out there that still do that.
So I think Detroit real estate is just still in a very, very precarious situation, a precarious place, right? I think that it's really hard for somebody who's not from Detroit to understand it, you know? I mean, I think you even know this being from Detroit and just being well-traveled, that you understand, like, you got a house in Boston Edison that's going for $500,000 that if in any other major city would be going for $3 million, right? And I'm talking about current condition. I ain't talking about with any improvements. I mean, as is, we'll be going for $1 to $3 million easily. And unfortunately, that's just Detroit. Like, I don't know what it is about Detroit that I mean, I wish I had the magic answer, because I'm pretty sure like I would be ahead of the curve even more than I feel like I am. But it's like Detroit is just in this weird space where it's like the property values are not where they should be. People don't really have an understanding of like how to spur economic development outside of the designated areas that have already been deemed, you know, developable or investable. And it's just one of those things where it's like you really have to either be connected to it, right? Either you have to have a passion, like for instance, off of Gilbert Street, you have some requisite understanding of it. You have a connection to it. It's personal for you. So whatever you do there will A, probably end up being great, but B, it'll probably spur some type of interest from those around you because why? The prodigal son is coming back, right? Or at least, a guy who knows what he's doing, who used to be on his block, is here now. And that's kind of my story, my situation in some respects. But I think in general, development across city in general, it's the Mad West, right? It's like I literally get these notifications every day off of Redfin or Redfine, however you say it. I don't even know how I call it Redfin, bro. Shout out Redfin. Y'all great. Y'all the best real estate, website I know about. But you go to Redfin and it's like, you'll look at a house that, needs work, not even in a designated area, that's going for like $40,000-$50,000, and you'll look in the same neighborhood, same zip code, same everything, going for like $150,000, and it's like, where? And they'll be like contingent or pending sale, and it's just like, who's buying this? Like, why are you buying this? Who's buying this? And like, what is the real game here? So I just be honest with you, I think Detroit's real estate is just all over the place. I mean, you got your areas that I think are pretty much established. I mean, your downtowns, your midtowns, your Island View, which don't even start on that. That's the wild, wild west right now. Your West Village, Indian Village, your historical districts, but like, Detroit is just in a very weird place right now, man. And I think that there's some real interest in the area, and I think there's some real interest in the city and being a part of the city. But I think that still comes with more time that's needed. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, I think Detroit is still another 10 to 15 years of like continuous development before it really is at a point where we can really say like this city has really come back to any respects. Like, I mean, is there some real bright spots in the city of Detroit? Of course, but that's anywhere, right? I mean, you know what they say about a broken clock, right? It's just one of those things where it's like, I mean, I think that we have some really gems and great things, but overall, we still have a long way to go. Long way to go.
For sure. And I know that we were talking about Bedrock before this. I mean, and all the great things that if you look at their website, their portfolio is huge, man. They have so many companies, so many fucking properties.
Yes.
Like, they're again, someone, I don't want to steal your thunder, but again, someone who had the vision, right?
Yes.
Had that vision. Can you speak more on that?
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, like, first and foremost, shout out to Dan Gilbert. Him and his team have done great things for me personally. And when I say that, I mean like being a business owner of Detroit Dough. We've won Demo Day, right? We were 1 year into our business, and we were able to be a part of one of the largest, if not the largest, pitch competition in the state of Michigan, being Demo Day. We placed second and won enough seat money to really set us up.
What is Demo Day?
Yeah, so Demo Day is a philanthropic arm of Dan Gilbert's company, Bedrock or Quicken Loans, that has done a pitch competition around really small businesses in the city of Detroit and small businesses outside the city of Detroit who want to come to the city of Detroit to be able to earn and win real money. Like, I'm talking about real capital. We ain't talking about no 5,000, 10,000, which shout out to those who are doing that. I think those are great. But I'm saying, like, they're starting at 50 to, go up to $350,000 worth of funding that could really propel and jumpstart your business or really fortify what you got going on right now, right? So when you think about scaling a business like us, when you're talking about having one movie theater with 12 locations to 5 movie theaters with 60 locations, you need that capital. And being honest, again, not trying to be controversial, black and brown people can't go in the bank like our white brethren and just say, hey, I got a business idea, go ahead and, give me this line of credit. So, like I said, Dan Gilbert has done things like that again, I personally don't get the hate. I'll just be very honest. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think that far too often people laugh at a vision, and then when it manifests or comes to fruition, they start to envy the vision. I think that that's really what has happened with Dan Gilbert, right? Yeah. The dude had a vision, and 2009 or 7 that, hey, the city of Detroit, didn't need to necessarily be saved, but there was an opportunity here that he could take advantage of, and he did just that, and I commend him for it. Yeah. One thing I say, and I've literally pressed this to people who be like, oh, Dan Gilbert, I'm like, have you been in one of his buildings? Yeah. I said, and when have you ever complained about the quality of which he's rehabbed the building? I can't. I don't. Exactly. So shut up. Like, not trying to be rude, but shut up. You can't be mad at somebody who's doing well by a project and by the people that have to deal with it, right? So if we as everyday Detroiters interact with downtown, go to work downtown, and we ain't complaining about a building falling down and rats and roaches in and out of people building, what are we complaining about? What I mean? At a certain point, that's just envy, right? And that's just you being a hater. Yeah. And you really need to understand, like, stop hating and start working on what you got to work on, right?
Right.
Implement some of his stuff. And I mean, honest with you, I have implemented his stuff. And that's even more the reason why I'm very, not passionate, but I'm very much so about, like, really being fair and understanding, like, Dan Gilbert's role in the city's revitalization. Like, if his approach was taken by community members and community leaders, I think that our city would be a better city. Because why? Now you have people who are saying, look, we need to push out all of this risk, right? We need to push out all of these things that are holding back our community, and we need to own our community, and we need to invest in our community. We need to set a standard for our community. And I understand it's hard, and I'm breaking this down on a very, very simple terms that I'm not even getting into complexities. But what I am speaking to, though, is the level of excellence and really understanding that there is a method and madness to this man, right? This man is not a billionaire just because of happenstance and because of white privilege solely. Yes, white privilege does play a role, but there's a lot of other things that also play a role that we have to, give some credence to. So that, to me, is kind of where I'm at with that. Is just, I admire what he's been able to do. And like I said, I've taken that same strategy with my neighborhood, right? When I look at buying in my block and what my dad, the edict that my dad gave to me, or what my dad kind of laid out for me as a child, trust and believe, I picked up that mantle and started running as fast as I can.
Yeah, definitely. And is there, I know in Chicago we have aldermans, and their municipality, like, would there be kind of an alderman of Northwest Goldberg? Do you guys have that?
No, we don't have an alderman. I mean, I know that some people joke and play and say that. I kind of take offense to it, to be honest with you, because if there's going to be an alderman, it needs to be somebody who actually is from the neighborhood.
People call you that, you said?
No. I said people joke and say that about other people in the neighborhood, and you can guess what I'm saying. They typically don't look like me. They usually come in, and because, they either own a big enough swath of land, or because they've been here one day before the person who came here yesterday. They think that,
Gotcha.
But at the end of the day, there's no shade to them, but it's just like, hey, like, no, like, I think that we don't have that system here in Detroit or in Michigan, but I do think that if we were to have a system like that, or if we were to jokingly say that, then it definitely needs to be somebody that's a pillar of the community. And I think that even supersedes me, right? Like, I'm not old enough. I'm 27 years old, man. Like, I'm talking about somebody who's been here for 50, 60 years, who have the knowledge and literally the understanding of where this neighborhood has been. Like, that's what I'd like to see if somebody was to be honored.
I was just curious, because that person would then know kind of larger scale, like what, and help people like nonprofits and people like yourself to really manage and really navigate some of these waters. So that's why I was just curious.
No, we got district managers. We have district managers, which, again, our districts are huge. Like, we're part of District 5, and that's the biggest district in the city of Detroit. So, like, we literally, part of our district is all the way on the east side, right? Which, again, we're a central neighborhood, but we are west side. We're on the west side of Woodward, but it's just like, we got district managers.
Do you know the district manager? I mean,
know him personally.
Is it has it always been someone that's been part of the community, obviously?
No, not at all. I mean, they're more or less on the economic side in a lot of ways. They say community, but they're, the city, the mayor's office appoints them first and foremost, right? So they're not necessarily from the actual neighborhood, or they're not from a specific neighborhood, because, again, they encompass so many neighborhoods. But usually it is somebody who's from at least the city of Detroit, but they might have been, 10 years away, just now coming back for the job opportunity in a lot of respects, which I know a couple have done that. But we have great relationships with our district manager. We have great relationships with our councilwoman, Mary Sheffield. Shout out to her office. Have always been supportive of the work that we're doing, have always been supportive by way of actually not only just like actually being there and listening to us, but actually putting money where their mouth is and forcing, some financial support from the city of Detroit, which I think has been amazing for us. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely connected as a nonprofit, which I appreciate. So we don't ever feel like we're out here in an island completely. But
that's good. You have the support of that too.
Correct. 100%.
As I was mentioning, it's probably going to come out in December. I mean, any goals or for 2021? Anything you on the lookout for?
Yeah, just trying to continue to hustle, man. As you know, I got a couple projects that's going on. Got a commercial building that I'm really trying to, make sure is tight and right by the middle of next year. And when I mean that, I mean like actually being able to launch a business out of that, whether that be just a venue and a safe space for, again, I'm all about safe spaces, as you know, safe space for events that can be held in a unique, cool, different vibe and environment. I've also got a house I'm in the middle of rehabbing, my first residential project to this scale and this magnitude, and just wanting to make sure that I go into 2021 better than I left 2020. You know what I mean? I think far too often, I don't want to get, again, too controversial, but I think during this pandemic, one thing that I have appreciated during this time is really just being able to at one point stop, because everybody stopped, right? Like, you can't mute or pause life, but I will say that for those who are unhealthy and in good shape, we truly did experience for the first time, maybe, and probably the last time in our adult life, a real pause in society where it really is like, okay, yeah, you got a job, and even if you don't have a job, but if you do got a job, much ain't expected of you right now, and you really can figure some things out that you otherwise couldn't. So I think for me, it was like taking advantage of that, and even taking advantage of this new shutdown that we got coming up tomorrow, right? It's like 3 weeks that we all know once the new president is in office, we will be seeing probably another national shutdown. It's like, how do you take advantage of this going into the new year, right? And I think that far too often, or going into the new year, because when he's in office, it will be the new year. It's like, that's what I'm more thinking about, right? I'm thinking about that every day. Like, how can I get better? Like, I think I told you, and I've shared this before to share with everybody, is that, you know, I started the house project at the beginning of the pandemic on purpose. Like, I was sitting at the crib, Detroit Doe, as far as I'm concerned, at that point, from what I thought was like all but over. It's like, here's an opportunity now for me to actually spend some time that I can account for in this way that I don't have to account in other ways, and I can make this happen. And I did that. So really grateful for that. I mean, I'm really grateful for just the place I'm in right now. For the most part, it's just been humbling to see, like, what truly comes out of these type of situations, right? A pandemic, right? Having so much loss and so many people who are, whether that be you're super right-winged or super left-winged and you don't agree with it, you do agree with it, you think that we need to have all these restrictions, like, cancel all that out and think about what I need to do. And once I've created that plan and that idea, I execute on it, and that's really what's important to me right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, man, dude, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, yo. I look forward to seeing your progression. And,
Thanks,
you know,
bro.
obviously we're here as a resource, and looking forward to 2021 for sure.
Appreciate it. Thanks, bro.
All
It's
right,
been a pleasure, man, and much success to you all. I'm loving what you're doing, man. Continue the great work, and we're going to keep working on these projects, man.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Peace.